Hi guys, back for another new video for you today. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed and who continues to subscribe to the channel. Also, anybody who's watched my videos, commented on them, shared them, or just enjoyed the content. The reason I make the videos is for people like you, the viewers out there, so I really appreciate your support. So today's video is going to be about the number one reason I believe Nirvana became the biggest band in music around the time they were going, and also in particular why out of all those bands that were on the Seattle scene, a lot of them really good bands as well, they were the ones who made it compared to anybody else. Even though a lot of them did have success, but in terms of Nirvana being the premier one and the ones who really, the ones who made it and that people knew the best from that scene. So let's get into it. So for me, the number one reason why Nirvana were the big breakout band from the Seattle scene and in music in general at the time was Kurt Cobain's voice. I think that was the X factor that set them apart from everybody else, and that helped them connect with a big audience and a massive amount of people. And it's the factor that made them different compared to a lot of other bands around at the time, particularly in that Seattle scene. With that in mind, I will now break down especially what it was about Kurt's voice that had that effect and helped them be the band that were the big stars, if you like, the breakout stars from that scene. So I think the number one thing about Kurt's voice that gave Nirvana that X factor was simply the sound of it. It's for me, it's one of, if not the best voice in music, because it combined so many amazing things. A lot of singers can do what he did individually, but I've not really heard anybody who can do what Kurt did all in one voice. Because if you listen to Nirvana's catalogue, and you even see it all in the space of one song sometimes, he not only had the power, you know, he could scream and shout with the best of them, but he had the melody as well. He didn't scream and shout in a way that was just noise or wasn't very nice to listen to. It had a real melody to it still. And also, when he needed to, he had the sensitivity in his voice and the quietness and the tenderness. So he could, you know, do songs like Polly or like Dumb. So he could, as well as scream and be powerful and be loud, he could be quiet and sing in a more restrained way, in a more pop way, I suppose you might say. And that just made his voice magical, I think, because he could do everything. Most other singers, as I say, can do different individual elements, but not all in one like he could. I also think his voice as well, it just had that something about it that connects with you and has that deep emotional impact. So he sings songs and he sings lyrics, and as well as hearing them, you're actually feeling them because of how he's singing them and his delivery and just what's in his voice when he sings and what's coming out of him. And it gives it that emotional connection, but it also gives that authenticity. So when he's singing about things, you feel it and it feels genuine, it feels authentic. I think there's a lot of other singers if you take that Seattle scene, that they just didn't have that. People like, for me, like Eddie Vedder, Chris Cornell, you just don't feel it the same. They sing it and they sing it well. I'm not saying they're bad singers, but they just didn't have that rawness, that passion, that authenticity that really made you feel it like Kurt did for me. And that just helped Nirvana stand out. So that's the first point. And then the other thing about Kurt's voice, my second point, where it helps Nirvana stand out, and I think it really helped them be the breakout stars, especially that Seattle scene when compared to a lot of other bands on there, is melodies. Now, not only in terms of the sort of the pop melodies that he could write and put into his music, so you had the heaviness of the music and then the hooks and the poppy melodies, especially if things off Nevermind, obviously, but even in Bleach and in Utro, as noisy and abrasive as the songs could be, he would always have really hooky, almost poppy melodies in the songs that I don't think you always got with other bands. I think his grasp of actually just melody itself was a lot better, and that obviously then helped him write songs that were a lot more popular and connected with a lot more people. I also think it's melody in terms of Kurt. He didn't sing or write melodies that were the standard sort of rock melodies or based on the standard rock scales, or didn't sound like what most rock singers or most singers did. He had quite an unusual approach to melodies and vocal melodies that sort of went outside of the standard range that most singers would have. I think that was instinctive, but it helped the Nirvana songs sound unique and catch your ear because it was something a bit different. Again, if you go back to, and I'm only mentioning these names because these are some of the most well-known singers on the Seattle scene at the time, so it's not I'm sort of bagging on him on purpose. But if you look at somebody like Eddie Vedder again from Pearl Jam, when he sings, his melodies and his voice, they've just got that sort of quite standard rock sound to him that is like every other rock band you've heard to me in a way, and it's nothing different. If you compare that to the melodies that Kurt has, Kurt's melodies are a lot different and a lot more unusual, and I think they catch the ear for that reason, and they make it sound a bit different, and it just gives Nirvana that, again, that edgy feel. For me, a lot of the other grunge bands, Seattle bands, they might say the grunge and the Seattle, and they might, have that image, but they just sound like any other rock band from the 80s. They just sound like they were a rock band from the 80s that put a flannel shirt on, because the way they're singing is like somebody like Joe Cocker or Robert Plant still, and the way they're using the melodies is exactly the same as somebody like that. It's nothing different, whereas Kurt was different, as I say, in his voice, as I've already said, but also in the way he actually wrote his melodies and the melody of what he sang. So there's that as well for me that helped Nirvana stand out and break out. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much it for today, to be honest with you. Don't want to go on too much, and they're the major things I think was special about Kurt's voice, and that therefore helped Nirvana become the breakout band of the Seattle scene and the wider music scene in general at the time. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe, and we'll catch up again later.